So we're recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be published later, so it's like.
Okay, for this portion of the service, we'll be going live on Facebook. Welcome to the Facebook portion of our service at the Institute for Spiritual Development. My name is Jaya. We are here at the new ISD Lotus Center at 297 River Street, Suite 3, the second floor in Oneonta, New York. We have many classes and gatherings, Oracle circles coming up. So please check our website at isdoneonta.org. Today we have reading the homily Reverend Diana Friedell, and she will be with us right now.
Thank you, Jaya. So my homily today is called Spiritual Struggles and the Power to Change. My reading, I have a short reading. You may recognize this one. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. At the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen circumstances, meetings and material assistance, which come to support the dream. And that is written by W.H. Murray, who led the Scottish Himalaya expedition in 1951. And he ends with a little quote from Goethe, I think that's how you say it, yeah. Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And I think that is what we, on the day today of our annual convention and in our 7th year, I think we had boldness for sure. We definitely operated by that. So my homily today begins now. Have you ever been stuck in a rut? It's kind of hard to find that feeling of boldness or take initiative. Not satisfied with where you are and wanted to just wave a magic wand and instantly create change. Wanting to change something about the way you look, a bad habit, change something about your work, your family, your spiritual practices, your health, your income. David Hawkins, the author of Power versus Source, says that 95% of people basically do not change in their entire lives. That's a lot of people. Okay. And most people don't change at all. And there's no growth over their lifetime. And I would venture to say that if you were attending ISD, you are most likely part of that 5% that does seek out spiritual growth, expansion, and change. So, I made a little handout, and the first one we're going to be looking at is the emotional guidance scale. I think that's the one that's not in color on your thing there. So don't worry, I'm going to, it's easier to follow along. So this morning I'm going to talk about why creating change is such a struggle and offer a solution to make our new routines stick. Here at ISD, one of our guiding principles is we affirm the personal responsibility of the individual and that we choose our happiness or unhappiness as we apply the laws of the universe. And I'm sure we all identify with those times where we just do not feel we have the power to choose our happiness or unhappiness. Or indeed the power to choose any better feeling emotional state at all. And ever notice when we feel really stuck, we can't even see that we're capable of change. So you can just be really stuck at the bottom of that scale. So how many of you are familiar with Esther Hicks and the emotional guidance scale? So very helpful tool. If you're not familiar with Esther, she's an international spiritual leader who channels a group of entities called Abraham, who give life guidance about the law of attraction, attracting what we want into our lives. Lots of podcasts, several books, a fun little spiritual practice if you want to just follow her a little bit. Always interesting. She has provided a very helpful tool called the emotional guidance scale. And in it, our emotions we experience day to day run on a scale from 1 to 22. And the top of that scale, way up here, which is number 1, being the emotions of joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation. Appreciation, number 1 on the scale. And when we've reached number 1, that is the place we feel most connected to source energy. What is on the bottom of the scale? Probably many of you, and you also have a cheat sheet. Those of you who are not even looking at a cheat sheet and are familiar, do you remember what's at the bottom of this emotional scale? What is it?
Shame.
Shame is way down there. Okay. What else? Grief. Yeah, we're all looking at the sheet. Despair. Yeah. Powerlessness. Fear. Depression. Yeah. So again, when you're down on number 22, way down on the bottom, we feel quite powerless to make a change. We can't raise our vibration high enough to feel that we have power. Many times, what moves us to try to make a change is that we have had some very hard lesson. The rug was pulled out from under us, and we are feeling upset and alone. Our very faith in ourselves and in a higher power is shaken to the core. I'm sure we all have times like that in our lives where that's happened. I have a client in California whose son was tragically hit and killed by a car when it was knocked out of gear and started rolling backwards. Many months later, she's still deep in grief and rotates between grief and anger and self-blame. And where's anger on the scale? Do you see it there? It's higher, right? It's higher. We got 22 is despair, grief, and anger is 17, and self-blame is 15. So we're up a little bit. Can you imagine what would happen if a well-meaning friend told her that she could just choose to be happy? Here's our metaphysical principle. You can choose to be happy. We could not coach her to choose happiness and enthusiasm. Number 3 on the scale, happiness, way up there. Because to move from 22, way down on the bottom, to number 3, happiness and enthusiasm, is just too big a leap on the scale. And how many times have we tried to cheer up a grieving person by telling them how much they have to be grateful for? What's wrong with saying that to someone who's in grief? Very bottom of the emotional scale. Where is gratitude on the emotional guidance scale? Gratitude, appreciation. Number 1. That's an even. You were saying go from 22 to number 1, please. What are you grateful for? And you wonder why they reach out and want to punch you in the face. You got them to anger, which was a good thing, actually. You got them to anger. And when you get to anger, you take action, like, the punch in the face, or I'm going for a walk. Whatever. It's so you have made a jump in the scale. So Abraham's teachings show us how to move up the scale of emotions gradually by simply choosing a better feeling thought, a thought that does feel authentic to them, not just words. So that saying that getting somebody to anger, as we said, has moved somebody up 6 points on the scale. And from there, you're at a little bit better feeling place and might eventually be able to go further up the scale. So back to David Hawkins, who has a wonderful tool called the scale of consciousness, and that's on the other side of your paper, which has many parallels to Abraham's emotional guidance scale. Hawkins used muscle testing to calibrate the frequency of the state of consciousness that a person holds. And the state of consciousness could be described as how much light a person holds, or an issue, or a thing, or the government, he measures everything. And it's kind of how close to God. How many people of you are familiar with David Hawkins, Power versus Force? Okay. All right. So it's a very, very interesting, not as many people here are familiar with that. So on that scale, it's like a thermometer running from 0 to 100, 0 being dead. There's no consciousness. So the very bottom, number 20, is shame and guilt. Okay. And numbers 7 to 1,000 at the top, 700 to 1,000 at the top being the scale of enlightenment. On the scale being enlightenment, feeling enlightened. And it seems like for a lot of us, like, well, that's what we're trying to aspire to, right? We're trying to get to enlightenment. Maybe not, though. There's only like 1 in 10 million or something like that who actually ever get there. So all people who are below 200 on that scale see themselves as victims and powerless. And this is because they see the source of their own happiness or their problems as out there. You did it to me. And when someone actually can take responsibility for their own happiness, they have taken back their power. It's an enormous jump. When someone reaches 200, this energy level is courage. They have the ability to deal with the changes and challenges of life. And obstacles are seen as challenges instead of a failure. And realizing that you are the source of your own life is the state of consciousness called acceptance. And it resonates on the scale as 350. So we hope most of us are at that place, like, okay, I recognize my part in the matter. I recognize that I am the source overall. We may sometimes want to blame everybody else, but we can quickly get back to acceptance. At the level of acceptance, we are not polarized by conflict or opposition. And these are David Hawkins' words. We see that other people have the same rights as we do. We honor equality, free of discrimination or intolerance. Acceptance includes rather than rejects. Okay, and just a couple little more. 400, when you reach 400, that's reason. So the ability to reason things out. Scientists can get stuck here because they don't look beyond the material world for answers. So it's a great intellect, only follow rules of logic and reason. So now 500 is where we get to unconditional love. 540 is joy. And I'm going into this just a little bit. Joy arises from all of your activities, characterized by a persistent positive attitude, despite prolonged adversity. Everything happens effortlessly by synchronicity and miracles. People at the level of joy have an experience of union with the divine. Does some of you have experienced that? Every once in a while, not all the time. It seems like it kind of go in and out of it. I know one person who seems to have it all the time. Tom Landon. Yeah, seems like you're right up there. Joy out of every moment. And then if the rest of us are grumpy, he'll remind us of what joy there is. Okay, in this moment. 600 and your energy level is at peace. That's where there's transcendence, self-realization, God consciousness. It's rare. And this is where he says, I'm not sure I agree, but it's attained by only 1 in 10 million people. Look to saints, that kind of thing. But there's also a lot of teachers and things I think that have reached that level. Finally, and I think at the energy level of peace, people are also spiritual teachers as well. Finally, 700 to 1,000, the top of the scale is enlightenment, which he says is attained by the great avatars, anybody with Lord in front of their name, Lord Jesus, Lord Buddha, Lord Krishna. Okay, so where do religion and religious practices fall on this scale of consciousness? After all, that's the business that we're in, kind of a spiritual center, church. Where does religion fall in there? Well, Christianity, which makes up about 83% of Americans, is measured at 450. Remember, that was reason, kind of that, where scientists sometimes are, and sometimes higher. Judaism is at about 450 also. Buddhism resonates at 455 when he does muscle testing or calibrating for these. Interestingly, a 12-step group is a higher calibration than organized religions. And that may be partly because they facilitate a self-led path to an experience of the divine. And so people have a very unique path to change and enlightenment, not dictated by the doctrines of an established religious discipline. At this point in my homily writing, I was struggling quite a bit. And I was like, nothing was coming. Finally, I just came to a full stop. And I realized, oh, what are you writing about? You need to raise your own vibration. I was so tense and so stressed, finish this. So that I could kind of receive the teaching that was meant to be shared this morning. And I was getting in my own way, getting in my head. All I could hear was my sister Sue, dear departed Sue, saying, "What's your point? What's your point?" Which is what she would say to us as we were, developing our ability to give a homily. Yeah. And David Hawkins says that you can step into the vibration or energy level that you are trying to attain, and you will absorb it, merging with that energy field. So what did I do? Meditated and listened to a very high vibration music. We all probably have several that we can turn to. Jonathan Goldman's healing sounds, and recited a very favorite powerful prayer, that one that Ali shared with me. You never know where you're going to get your influence. Meditation and prayer brought me back to that place of peace and a little more clarity. And I topped it off with a few affirmations that were right up on my bulletin board. I access all I need with ease and grace. I am in my full power. I am a clear channel. Whoosh, I'm back. By the way, did you know that lifting your own frequency, you think I don't have time to meditate. I'm wasting time, right? I'm taking 10 minutes out of my day to do this. It actually counters all the negativity around you and in the world. So it's a practice, your own practice benefits the world. Last night when we went out to dinner, Friday, and I was sharing my stuckness with my husband, he just immediately started the rampage of appreciation. And I learned that originally from Sue, because Sue and Tom would do that together, my sister Sue. Another useful tool from the work of Abraham. So in a rampage, we normally think of a rampage as being very negative. And so I was overly focusing on what was going wrong in the world and stuck in a worry loop and self-doubt. No one else does that, right? Nobody gets stuck in a worry loop. Yeah. So worry and doubt just resonate very low on Abraham's emotional guidance scale. Anybody tell me where it is on that scale? Worry and doubt. It's above anger. 13, 14. If anger is 5, 13, 14. And it was time to move up the scale to get a vibrational state of appreciation. So that Ben started showering me with all the things that we were grateful for. And usually if he says one, then I have to say one, and then we have to go back and forth. So that's the rampage of negativity becomes a rampage of appreciation. When we are at that higher vibration, we are now allowing our fullest connection to source energy. But my husband needed to start that rampage of appreciation game to shake me out, because I was stuck. It's like somebody else could actually shake me out of that lower vibration. In David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force, he goes on to say that when someone stops going to their support group because they think they can do it themselves, it almost always means they're heading for a backslide, and they've given up on their goals. So the support group creates a higher collective energy field that when you step into the group field, you will meld with that higher energy field generated by the group. So everyone combined, it's not just any one person, but you create another field by the whole group. The support group, okay. That one of hope, personal power, accomplishment that you might not be able to sustain on your own. Even if you woke up feeling cranky and irritable, firm commitment provides powerful results. Woody Allen said 90% of success is just showing up. I've been making myself show up at Weight Watchers each week. And recently when I stepped on the scale, Glenda, who weighs us, says, "Congratulations, you've lost 5 pounds." And I said, "What? That can't be." I went out to dinner, my son's birthday, and I had pizza and cake. Weigh me again. Like I knew I did too. And it came out the same. She said, "Well, you must have done something right because you lost 5 pounds." And then she looked at the front of the folder, she turns it over and looks at, "Oh, this is someone else's record." You gained 2 pounds. So when one is on a spiritual path, it makes sense that stepping into the collective energy of a group, like Weight Watchers, like AA, like ISD, or whatever spiritual or religious group floats your boat, in our search for personal change, that group will give us the framework we need to raise our frequency, to experience that more fulfilling and divinely connected life that we would like. It's 7 years since we started ISD, and I think we can claim that we are that group with a high frequency. Maybe not perfectly, we don't maintain that high frequency all the time, obviously, but here we are at our annual convention, and shortly we're going to review our accomplishments and vision for the years ahead. And we are in our own space, so we must have done something right. So at the beginning of this homily, I promised a solution to make our new routine stick. And here's a quick summary. Raise our vibration with music and prayer. Number 2, step into the energy field of what you are intending for yourself. 3, just show up. And 4, a rampage of appreciation. So we're going to end today's homily with a challenge to join us in a rampage of appreciation. But Tom had given us an appreciation board over here. But you're going to write what you appreciate about ISD on a sticky note. Or in the chat, because we will copy what you write in the chat as you think of things. Big things, small things, things about your life, things about ISD, and we're going to put them all on the appreciation board that Tom made. So that way we're thinking in advance of today's meeting, kind of raising the vibration of our annual meeting and thinking about all the things we did good, right, rather than focusing primarily on what we did wrong. And we'll end right there. So maybe Connie, you could pass out those little, there's some, I'll just start it. Yeah, the post-it notes, and you could take a couple for yourself as it goes around. Thank you. Diane.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Diana. I heard that too. I don't know where.
Yeah.